Hi, good day, everyone. Great crowd. I see it's a full room, so thank you very much. Jaap, as mentioned, MD for a company called Freshworks. I thought I'd start off just by taking people through. I don't know how many people are aware of Freshworks. We're not a fruit company. We are a company that was formed in 2010 in Chennai, India. And what we're quite proud about is we were the first Indian software company to list on the NASDAQ, and that happened 2021. And we have grown over the years to be now the latest financials that were released just a month ago, over $600 million. Our offices are split between California in the heart of Silicon Valley in San Mateo from a head office perspective, and our development office out of Chennai, India. And we've got about just over 5,000 employees globally. What's really impressive is where we've come from and where we're going and where we continue to innovate. So we've got about 65,000 customers globally and about 1,300 customers in Africa. And recognized by the likes of Gartner and their quadrants, but more importantly, the peer reviews as well. And the peer reviews obviously are very important to us because they are put forward by people like yourselves. So I guess I'm not going to delve into our product too much, but just to put a placement is we have realized, and where we've come from is we've realized that customer experience and employee experience go hand in hand. And from the customer experience side, our starting place was around ticketing, and we've merged that now into the likes of conversational with sales and marketing involved, as well as the EX side of things, which is around IT service management, ITAM, ITOM, and a whole bunch of things. But we've extended that because what we got feedback from our customers is that in today's world, it's more important not just to focus on IT service management, once again coming to the employee and making sure that we can start crossing across the different business units. And we've been very innovative in terms of the way that we've created the different business units being able to have their own workplaces, so it's segmented, but still leveraging off IT. And I think what I'd like to convey in the message over here is our Neo platform. And why this platform is so important is a couple of years ago, as you do when you develop different products, you develop the different products with different databases underneath them. And as we moved forward in time, we started to realize that these different databases, in terms of replication, were starting to become a challenge. And we see this in a number of different products in the market, whether it's a marketing product or a sales or CRM product or another product. You're constantly having to sync these records, and that causes major challenges in terms of how and what to use data. So Gartner calls it CDP, Customer Data Platform, and essentially what the CDP is about taking lots of different data sources, bringing it together in a centralized database, and then making sure that you can augment that information so you can use it more effectively. We call it our unified customer record, and all our products come down to a unified customer record that we sit inside a data lake. For those of you who know Snowflake, it sits inside that database inside AWS. And this is super important, specifically now in the world where we're moving in terms of generative AI, because it's all about data. Generative AI, or the AI that we see moving forward now, whatever it may be, even moving forward into synthetic AI, is all about data points and collecting data and making sure that those data records are enriched across everything that you do. And that's why we believe that when you look at success inside organizations, that organizations are likely to be more successful in customer satisfaction by approximately 48%. As opposed to their competitors. In terms of innovation, they are likely to be 89% more efficient, and in terms of actually going out there and their reputation and how they service the organizations out there, and reputation, I think word of mouth is still probably the biggest selling tool out there and the biggest marketing tool out there, so about 56%. So I thought might as well show you what customers we work with. So there's a lot of customers, and you'll see some names on here that are overseas, but we have some big names in South Africa as well. And it's quite, when I walk through an airport and I go through, oh, okay, there's one of our customers, oh, there's another one of our customers. And essentially, these customers touch your day-to-day lives as well. Retail, we've got the likes of Mr. Price, Clicks, some of the Pepcore Group, some of the divisions within inside the Pepcore Group. In terms of financial services, we do some work in some of the financial services, some to a less or more degree. Insurance industry, Asapol. In terms of watching the World Cup rugby, DSTV, MultiChoice, all the products that they do as well in terms of creating CX experience. But you can see there the kind of the names, and there's many, many more. So I thought what I'd start with is just some of the priorities, and I saw some of the other slides just before I got on in terms of talking about priorities. And we see, and what we've done is we've tried to align to these priorities that we see from a CIO perspective. So I'm going to focus more on the EX component as opposed to the CX, so the employee experience versus the customer experience. And it's really all around value creation, harnessing this innovation, this technology to drive value for the business and the employees. And when we think about businesses in today's world and the organizations we chat to, it really is moving more and more about employees. Because if the employees don't have the right tools or they're not able to service the customers correctly, it affects your brand. And therefore, everything that we build with inside the technology side is to service the business and ultimately the people that touch our customers out there. Cost optimization. We've seen some massive headwinds from a financial perspective in the last couple of years, specifically from COVID. And organizations, when we speak to them, are saying, well, we need to do more with less. And this is around balancing this cost with optimized operations and making sure that we get the most out of it. And I kind of compare it as I'd love to have an Aston Martin and cruise down the highway in my Aston Martin. But is it actually going to affect me in terms of where I'm going from A to B? Probably not. And in the world we are, we need to do more with less. And then this AI. From an AI perspective and diving deep into AI, I think, in the last year, we've seen some massive changes come into play in terms of where AI has suddenly become mainstream. And we're seeing organizations are looking at how they transform their traditional day-to-day businesses and leverage off this technology to make themselves better. So AI, and so one of my pastimes is surfing, and I kind of relate this AI to waves. Waves, when you're surfing, work on a period. The shorter the period, the closer the waves are together, and they're generally a lot smaller. The bigger the period, between the waves that come, the waves are generally a lot bigger, and they come in sets. So I'm not going to go all the way back in time, but I'm going to start at kind of the internet. The internet was the first real wave that I'm aware of in my lifetime that really affected us in terms of the way that we do business. And it was massive. It changed the way we do everything. Then with the advent of mobile telephones, all of a sudden you could carry literally a data center in your pocket in terms of accessing information and getting information. Another massive wave. Then the cloud. And the cloud had lots of little parts of the wave. So moving from an on-premise environment into a data center, private cloud, moving to a hyperscaler, or rather a large vendor now called hyperscalers. And now we've seen moving to a multi-cloud platform. And that's been massive in terms of how it's changed our business, in terms of how we operate as an organization, how we've needed to reskill to make use of these different services. And now we're seeing AI. And when we look at this growth that we're seeing, I mean, what was it? In video, 260% growth in 1 year. It's unheard of. And they're likening it, when we listen to the analysts, they're likening it to when Cisco captured the internet with all their connectivity, and they look at the graphs in terms of growth, and they're saying it looks like exactly the same trajectory, except AI is going to continue on a hockey stick, and they just don't know where it's going to end. And some of the analysts are saying maybe the internet's not even going to be relevant in the way that we know it today, or the way that we build applications and services and stuff, maybe not going to be relevant. So I guess that brings a couple of concerns, right? And one of the first concerns that we always hear when we are talking about what we're doing around AI is it going to take our jobs? And the reality is, if it's something that's data-based and is repetitive, then probably we don't need someone to do that. But I believe slightly different. I believe it's there to augment. And I don't believe in a world where we are, with all of us and how we feel, it's not going to put us out of work. In fact, I have a different idea in my head. I looked at some software recently that's in beta, which essentially becomes a personal assistant. And that personal assistant software, not only working on prompts and giving you information, but it starts to generate its own questions to ask you as an individual. So it gets a better idea of who you are, and it can serve information how you want it, with the right tone and with your own mannerisms. And I believe in the next couple of years, we'll all end up with some sort of personal assistants. Who knows? Maybe in the future, the AI will be going to work for us and we'll be sitting on the beach. And let's keep our fingers crossed. But essentially also, there's this concept of AI is expensive, and it is. It is. To run a transaction on AI versus a typical search that we run on the internet, a typical search that we run on the internet is maybe 20 US cents. If you're looking at Google. To run an AI query is something like close to $7 to $8. So it is expensive to run out of the data centers, but unless you're a Fortune 100 company and you can spend loads of money building out a specific department to build out your own AI, you're probably going to land up using AI that's been created by one of the larger companies out there. And we're already seeing this. And it's actually the actual initial investment that you need to make to deploy it is probably going to outweigh the benefits and the savings you're going to get down the line. The other one is that it takes time to implement. And that's not the case. I mean, we've seen now with the likes of what Microsoft's done with OpenAI and launching their Copilot, you can augment your products very, very quickly and your time to market and your time to value is very, very quick. Governance. I was recently in Kenya at the end of last year for the CIO Awards in Kenya, and one of the rooms similar to this was all the CIOs getting together and discussing what they were going to do about AI and whether they should be using it and what it means to the intellectual property that's sitting inside the country, and they're very, very concerned. And I've listened to a number of different topics about this, and the reality is that we already have some guardrails in terms of how we protect the different information. That we have GDPR, POPI in South Africa, and when I listen to the debates that are going on, and specifically some of the stuff that's coming out of America, the concern that the pros and cons have, and what I take from it, is simple. If we put too many guardrails in place and stop ourselves from utilizing the AI, someone will not, and they'll move so far ahead with this AI that we wouldn't be able to catch up. And it means that it's going to land up putting us out of business. So we're going to have to be very careful of how we govern this, but it can be trusted. And the ways that it's being consumed at the moment means it's very protected. So the way that the queries work in OpenAI is it runs the queries in memory, flushes the memory, and keeps the models. So the large language models get kept, and it references your own data just with those models, but the data doesn't get used for another person. And we're already seeing that happen. So there is stuff there. And then the other concept is AI accurate or inaccurate. And quite honestly, if you run ChatGPT and you go and look at some of those references on the back end, sometimes they don't make sense. And that once again comes to my first point, is that I don't believe it's here to replace us. It's here to assist us and augment what we do on a day-to-day basis. And as I go through to the next slide, you'll see how we see AI affecting the organizations across from a CX all the way to the EX space. So without that, we see three areas, and we put it into three different areas. And we look at it from an employee perspective. And we're looking at how AI will affect employees. And then how it will affect agents, whether those agents are dealing with internal employees, internal customers, or external customers. We see over there that they increase in productivity. And then for leaders, And this is kind of getting controversial because the leaders love analytics analytics is kind of the radar of our business, and it directs us where we're going, and it's going to make the decisions, help us make decisions better. And we love these dashboards, and we love these reports, and each one of us in this room over here has a different way of analyzing data. And that's what brings our secret sauce to our businesses. How we interpret data, how we want to analyze it, maybe running an export, pulling down a spreadsheet, multiple spreadsheets, putting in Power BI, whatever the analytics tool that you use, and analyzing the different tables and that. But it can be time consuming, and you can go down a rabbit hole when you kind of intrinsically know what you're trying to achieve. So when we start to look at AI and what it can do from an analytics perspective, it's instantaneous. You can start asking questions, and it surfaces the data exactly how you've asked it and brings it up. And once again, if the data's good, and why in the beginning I mentioned about CDP and why we've created this UCR, if your data is good, you're going to get good results. And I guess it goes back to that old saying, garbage in, garbage out. So I thought I'd touch just briefly on these three topics over here. So in terms of so in the past, when we had bots, RPA, it was very linear and almost like an IVR where you, in the old days, where you pick up the telephone, push 1, push 2, push 3. It was kind of linear in terms of RPA, in terms of what we've done. And a couple of years ago, there was a lot of stuff floating around the market. Is RPA still relevant? Well, AI has come in and it's transformed this now. It is completely frictionless and it is humanized. In fact, the bots that are being created today are low code, because you can create them really simply, and they are really humanized. You can even start to create the tone. I mean, we're talking to organizations about, we call it an organization's handwriting. So in the future, you will be able to have a holding company with multiple different brands, and each one of those brands will have their own tone, and the AI will assist the agents with these own specific tones, or the employees with these specific tones, to be able to move forward. So talking about that and talking about the agents and augmenting the different agents, obviously, when an agent picks up a call, or whether it be internal or external, there's generally a ticket behind it. There may be many tickets behind it, and you need to have the ability to go through it, which means it takes time for you to be able to respond to that individual. So with the advent of AI, we see it aggregating all this information and looking and spitting out what it is that the ticket summarizes, and then making recommendations by querying knowledge bases, QA articles, information from different repositories that you may want to go through, Confluence, etc., to be able to surface up that information professionally, consistently with how other agents are, be able to present this back to the person that's logged the call or wants to be resolved on it. And this goes far deeper in terms of the way that we go, whether sales or marketing, and I'll touch on that as well. But it delivers a consistent and reliable way of communicating back. And specifically in the world, specifically when you look at agents where we generally have a higher turnover of staff than other areas of business, it also means you can bring someone up to speed really, really fast. And then, once again, I mentioned about the insights around leaders and that, and it's super important. In fact, I believe the way that we do analytics today, in the future, will change completely. Change absolutely, completely, forever, and I don't think that dashboards are going to even be a thing of the future. Maybe they will, but it will be completely customized based on what we want to see, and it will allow us to make faster, better decisions about the business and where we're going. So, just to wrap it all up, AI, I believe, is here in a day-to-day basis every day at the moment. And with our tools, we're seeing this, and we're seeing the growth of what's happening. We're seeing organizations in the hospitality industry using AI from our platform now, and it's changing the way that they respond to their customers. So when we look at agents, I've covered how agents can do that. Also, the ability for them to create bots on the fly is really, really, really quick as well. If you're a salesperson, imagine you've got all this information coming from multiple sources, whether it be Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, email, telephony, touching the website with this UTMs that Google allows us to do tracking and cookies, so that when a person picks up and starts to do a call to somebody on a sales call or something like that, They will be able to understand who they're dealing with, understand what their preferences might be, and that extends even further down the line into marketing. Marketing can start doing segmentation better. They can start understanding what campaigns they wanted to drive, and also making those campaigns more personalized. In terms of IT agents and admins, I covered that. I mean, just having someone to augment you and to create you with this like insight in terms of what you're dealing with and where you can get the information. After all, the PC was invented and was invented so that you could provide rich information at the right time to service your business or your customers effectively. From a developer's perspective, I'm particularly fond of home automation, and I play with a little thing called Hass.io, which is a Raspberry Pi. It uses YAML as underlying code. I was able to very quickly go and create some code that looked at my alarm system. When the alarm was activated, using a cheap Sonos device to be able to turn on the light outside. All I needed to do was change the token that I needed to reference and the authentication to the different services that I have. But you no longer need to be a coder. And then obviously we've discussed about the analytics. So wrapping it all up from where I said the three pillars that we play in, I believe, and we believe, that self-service, specifically with the advent of COVID and what we've seen, and the digitalization and digitization of what we saw happening from services, is going to become key. If you can service yourself, it's a preferred method of doing it. No one wants to sit on a telephone. And we're very heavy on telephony in this country, in fact, the whole of Africa. But the costs are high. And if we can service through self-service better, whether it be internally or externally for our customers, I believe it's going to drive different satisfaction. In terms of Copilot, we see that augmenting not just your internal agents, but your external agents, and providing a much better experience for the people that are coming in, and assisting them to do their job better. No one wants to do a bad job. It just means that they're not necessarily enabled enough or don't have the right tools or right information at their fingertips. And insights. Business leaders are going to require more and more insights, and with the advent of this generative AI and where it's going to provide us with faster, better insights, and I think these are the three areas to focus on from business, and certainly what we're seeing from our customers and where we're designing our business and moving forward. So with that, I'd like to thank you all very, very much, and we are at the back, and if you want to come and chat, please, it would be our honor. So thank you all very, very much, and enjoy your lunch.
All right.